Hey guys, welcome to When Spirit Talks. In this week's episode, we chat with John van Huenen about breathwork, how you can better connect with your breath to create spaciousness, and how shifting perspectives can make a big difference on your energy. I pulled the card of the episode during our spirit segment and shared how that card related to John and the message it had for everyone else who is listening. John is a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator who offers guided breathwork journeys for individuals in person and online to help them activate their inner compass, releasing blocks of lack and limitation, and voyage bravely toward all that they are destined for. John is such a calming presence, and I know you'll love listening to his story. Now let's get started. Hey, John. Welcome to When Spirit Talks. How are you?
I'm doing so good, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. It's always lovely to have these sorts of conversations. It's a beautiful way to start the day.
I just love your energy. So I really want everyone to hear your story and hear about all of the beautiful breathwork practices that you do.
Yeah, amazing. Sounds great.
So if you could tell us a little bit about your journey and how you started your path to become a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator.
So for that, we have to run it back to, I guess, back to childhood. I grew up with chest infections all the time. Like I spent probably once every 3 to 6, no, less than that, once every 3 months, I was on antibiotics with chest infections and had asthma and was always kind of getting sick. Yeah, that went on, throughout childhood. I'd get into sports. Later in life, I got into cycling and I'd get really physically fit. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'd just crash and burn. Like the morning, I'd be cycling 100 Ks, and the afternoon, I'd be bedridden for a week with a chest infection. And eventually, I got sick of that. And I got sick of taking antibiotics. I found that they were starting to leave me feeling super depressed. And so I knew that something had to change, and current means I was using just wasn't working for me. So about that time I was living in Sydney. I'm from New Zealand. And I came across a kinesiologist through a friend who was seeing one, and I didn't really have any experience or any knowledge of what that was, but figured that it was worth a shot. So yeah, that was kind of what led me into the space was kinesiology. Did that for a year and a half, and it's been like 7 years now, and I haven't been to the doctor once since then. So yeah, huge changes. And that kind of opened the door for me. I was like, oh, well, if I can change how my immune system operates and change that belief system, then what else is possible? Yeah, kind of from then on, I knew that I wanted to be a facilitator of something. I wanted to support people, and it was just a case of then finding out, what really felt like a system that I guess knew was what I wanted to offer and felt confident in. Yeah, from then on, I was living in the UK for a while, and I was managing a yoga studio and doing some building work. I'm a tradie by it's my background, and a designer as well, and kind of done a bit of everything actually. Yeah, I did like the plant medicines and Reiki, and saw a talk therapist for a year and a half. And then just by coincidence, I just got back from the UK, and I was living in New Zealand, and I came across this really heavily tattooed dude on social media, and I was like, oh, he looks kind of interesting. And so I gave him a follow, and then it was during 2020 when we in New Zealand we had you had to go through a hotel to get back into the country, and only New Zealand citizens could be here. So yeah, in like a month's time, he posted this story being, oh yeah, I'm in New Zealand and going through quarantine, and we're holding an event in a month's time. And I had no idea who he was, what he did, but I was like, oh, whatever this is, like this, just the alignment of it is just too uncanny not to just pursue whatever this is. So yeah, when it came time to book tickets, I jumped straight on there, And yeah, that was my first experience with breathwork. And yeah, it was phenomenal. It was so powerful. And the best part was that, with all this stuff, energy moving through my body and all these emotional releases, and I left that room feeling like I was the one who did it. And it wasn't some external source that was, guiding me through or supporting me or doing the work for me. And yeah, that was probably the moment that I was like, oh, this is something I really want to pursue.
That is so powerful.
That was amazing. That's such a liberating experience after the years of visiting someone and feeling that they needed their support in my healing journey to step out and be like, oh well, I did this myself, and really taking my power back was a hugely momentous step.
You know what I love that you said too was that it kind of just fell in your lap
Oh, absolutely.
and that you weren't really like looking into it or like expecting it, because I feel like that's when the great things happen.
Mm,
It's when they just somehow cross your path and you're like, what the heck is this? I don't know what it is, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's how I felt with Reiki when I got into it too. I was looking similar to you, like healing that physical aspect of our body and our mind. But it's just so funny how so many people have that experience where they're going through this health crisis, and really spirit just kind of leaves these little trail of
just the
crumbs.
breadcrumbs, and like you come back to, it's so important to, when we have these like, oh, this feels like something I'm interested in, this piques my interest, like there's something there, and it's so important to follow that just to see where it leads. Because yeah, like you say, with your experience with Reiki, it's just, if we don't step outside, it's that age old saying from my goodness, it's completely eluded me. The scientist just said, if we keep repeating trying to find the same solution to a problem, then we're never going to, without doing something different, we're always going to get, the same answer. Whereas if we follow these steps and yeah, try something different, then just see where it lands. And because we're doing something different, there's a whole new range of possibilities, a whole new series of timelines that open up because we have taken a step that's a little bit different.
I was going to ask you this at the end, but it's kind of leading me into it, and we'll get back to the breath work after. But the thing I love about you is that you're so willing to like
Mhm.
go to new places and try new things. And I find it so fascinating because I am kind of like the opposite. I love like the things that I'm used to and what I'm comfortable with.
Mm.
And I love how you just like get up and go. Like you travel, you experience all of these amazing things. And I was always curious, what is the one place that you think taught you the biggest lesson in life and shifted your perspective on yourself and spirituality and life?
Oh, that's a juicy question. uh, so in 2019, I've been planning it for a while. My favorite book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I think most people are familiar with that, but if you're not, you definitely should check it out. It's a short story, just about a shepherd boy, and it kind of speaks to spiritual experience and the hero's journey. But essentially, at the end of that book, Paulo Coelho speaks to his personal experience doing a pilgrimage called the Camino de Santiago, which is a walk from the south of France across to the top of Spain, across to like above Portugal. And yeah, so I had that in my mind when I moved over to the UK to do that. And something was telling me that it had to happen, at the end of 2019. I was originally planning to do it March 2020, which would have not worked out. So everything kind of works out perfect when you trust that. But yeah, I quit my job and yeah, went over to Spain for a month and walked across Spain. And if people are familiar with the story, that they're probably familiar with, there's lots of love stories around the Camino and whatnot, but I had no idea about any of that. I didn't even know where I'd be staying the first night I arrived over there. I had done no research on it. I kind of packed a bag of what I thought I'd need to hike and yeah, went for it. But I would say, I guess that the two most powerful lessons I learned from that were just to slow down. The first few days I was like pumping through it because, I was from like the cycling community where, you drop your head down and you put your headphones in and you blast as fast as you can to to get those KOMs or whatever on Strava. Yeah, so this time I took my headphones out. I slowed right down. I smelt the roses, which was really beautiful, and I met all these amazing people just by allowing space for that to enter. Oftentimes in these sorts of experiences, we do quite often put headphones in or whatever, and it kind of it creates a barrier between ourselves and possibilities in the outside world. Yeah, I guess the second part, which is that it also allows for coincidence. And there were so many amazing coincidences that would occur along that month-long trip, just bumping into people who had become lifelong friends. And actually, I did the Camino in Spain, and I've recently went to get an ice cream, a gelato in a place called Sumner, which is down where I'm living now in Christchurch, New Zealand. And one of the girls that I walked the Camino with works there. She's moved all the way from
No
the
way.
UK to literally a few kilometers away. So just all these beautiful experiences that open up once we allow space for observation and yeah, stop so much trying to fill our day and just allow and create space. Yeah, and I find that in daily life now, right, where if I'm trying to find a solution to a problem, sometimes it's better just to go for a walk, and sometimes it's going to a cafe or whatever, and just sitting with my beverage, like a cup of tea or whatever, and just sometimes there'll be like a conversation that happens near you that is super relevant to what it is that you're currently navigating, and just being observant of that. Or a song will come on when you walk into a store, or a car will drive past. And I know there's so many opportunities out there for spirit to speak to us in the most peculiar ways. Is actually recently I don't make a habit of going to malls. It's kind of a place that I don't really enjoy, but I was there recently, and I started to feel like the energy became really dense. So I was calling in my guides for support, and all of a sudden the woman yelled out next to me, and then she turned to me and said, "Oh, don't worry, love, you're safe." And I was like, "Okay, okay, cool." That was spirit telling me that my prayers have been answered, and I'm yeah, safe to be in this place. So yeah, it's yeah, the world's a magical place when you allow yourself to see it that way.
That is a beautiful story. I love how you are so tuned in to everything that happens around you because I feel like it's so healing. And I feel like the people who pay attention to the signs and the coincidences and the slowing down so they can like get in tune with themselves and their energy, it's just an amazing, beautiful thing. Because, like you said, so many times we're just diluting the experiences because we're so distracted, and sometimes we're purposely trying to distract ourselves from it. But yeah, the beauty is in quieting down and slowing down and being open to surrendering. And I'm sure breath work probably helps you do that too. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I was about to say, so like, yeah, like you come back to a lot of the time people are distracting themselves, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, because there is so much within them that they haven't yet processed or aren't yet ready to process. Not to say that I still haven't got stuff to work on. I most definitely do. But when we do start to kind of, you know, dig through some of the more intense stuff, we create that space where we can feel more comfortable to slow things down and quiet down. And I think it also comes through living in a society where we are our value is quantified by what we can supply and bring to the world or what we offer as opposed to just being, which is yeah, far more accurate. But yes, anyway, back to breathwork. So through breathwork, we can shift that energy, through a daily practice, which is what I do, every day. I've got it's only like a 5 minute practice. It takes no time at all, just to chase a chance to connect with the breath and get back in the body, because so often we live in the mind. See, I use that like a daily practice just to reground, reconnect, slow things down, and then with a deeper journey, we do these 1 hour breathwork journeys. We create a space that's about 3 hours long, so there's time to kind of, if it's a one-on-one session, we really dig into what it is that the person, the individual would like to really focus on. And yeah, if it's a group session, we kind of create like a collective space where we can kind of either be journaling about what's alive for us, or what's most prominent that we're working through. Yeah, and then we go into a 1 hour breathwork journey, which is I teach a conscious connected breath, which is a forced inhale and then a side exhale. So it looks like breathing in deeply and then just letting it out. And there's no gap between, there's no breath holds or anything. It's just a cyclic breath. And that sounds like a lot for an hour, but after the first 5 or 10 minutes, people come out of that experience at the end like, oh, where did that time go? It's just like you go into this timeless space where, yeah, things are processing and shifting and moving. And yeah, I guess there's like a muscle memory that develops. That means that continuous breath kind of just becomes very easeful.
I was going to say, I like that inhale, exhale, because for me, there's so many different types of breathwork and breathing like exercises. And I myself can never do the ones where they're like inhale and hold for 4 seconds and then exhale and hold, like that holding. Whenever I get to the point where I have to hold it, I just experience all this anxiety. So I feel like I would love the way you do it, where you're just inhaling and exhaling, that like beautiful cycle that's just uninterrupted.
Yeah, and I think the other important thing to mention there, which is a very important aspect, is that it doesn't need to be so. So with this breathing through the mouth, we're activating the sympathetic nervous system. We bring everything online, which leads to these. They can be emotional releases like crying or fear or rage, or maybe you connect to past loved ones. There's so many different directions you can take with it. That's why I love it so much. But at times that can become really overwhelming, and you can get physical sensations in the body and whatnot, right? And so we can also slow things right back down and bring ourselves back into the parasympathetic state by breathing through the nose. So in any of my sessions, I never really push the person to keep breathing that through the mouth, just, finding ways to get to that place which is a little bit uncomfortable, but without really pushing it too hard, because otherwise we just re-traumatize the person, and we're kind of not really getting anywhere. And often if someone gets pushed too hard, they might fall asleep because their nervous system just shuts down.
That's so interesting.
Mm.
Really interesting. What is the biggest benefit you've seen where people leave a session with you? Like, what do they typically experience, or what do they say they absolutely love about practicing that?
I would say the spaciousness that comes out of a session, where they just feel like, I remember I did a session recently, and she was quite an anxious individual, and she's like, I have so little anxiety right now that I just don't even know. This feels so unnatural to me because I feel so relaxed. So yeah, definitely. I'm not saying it always happens. Like there's, I think it's really important to not have an expectation of a session, because sometimes you may feel like, oh, this person feels like super relaxed, and I still feel anxious and tense, or I still feel a lot of sorrow or whatever. And it's all completely natural. It's all part of the process, and that's just your body processing whatever it needs to process in that moment. But yeah, I would say that generally speaking, it's the spaciousness and the clarity that's created at the end of the session that people really notice the most.
That's beautiful. It's interesting too, because when you think of the word spaciousness, it's like you're physically giving your heart chakra and your chest space as you're breathing in, and that's reflecting in the descriptive words that they're using.
I love that. It's a great perspective. Yeah.
Do you also incorporate nature in with your sessions, or what are the benefits to going out in nature? Like you mentioned, going for a walk. What is the biggest benefit?
Oh my God, there's so many. uh, I do some of my one-on-ones. I do offer, yeah, outdoor experiences. We'll go for a walk and connect to nature, and then come in and do a breathwork session. Or it may just be, yeah. So recently we've been doing more hikes, and then just connecting to our breath and connecting to nature in a more, just like a daily practice or whatever, just to really sink in and immerse ourselves in that space. Or maybe it's before a cold water swim. I absolutely love being in natural bodies of water. I wouldn't say that I like cold immersion. Like I wouldn't stay in there for long periods of time. I don't really think that's that good for a majority of people, because their nervous systems are already so fried from daily life that, it's just kind of overstimulating. But I definitely feel there's immense benefit in that natural energy flowing over us and through us, and letting go and releasing, and taking with it whatever no longer serves us. But yeah, just being in nature in general. We're in a society where we're surrounded by frequencies like Wi-Fi and whatnot, and those frequencies store in our body as positive ions. And so when we go into nature, that releases those, and we can, often those will cause illness and sickness. But if we spend time in nature, even just grounding in the grass, just allows us to, yeah, let some of that positive energy go, and yeah, find center again.
It sounds like the hiking, the water, it's adding that extra grounding element that is so prevalent in nature just naturally, and like adding that in with your breathwork practices. So I think it's great that you do that. And I'm sure it's so, so helpful.
Absolutely, and especially with integration afterwards. just to, once we're in these heightened states, it really allows us to come back into our bodies and reconnect and find centeredness in a natural way.
Yeah. And what is one tip you have for anyone who wants to start developing that sacred connection with their breath?
Pay attention. Just come back to the breath. It's funny how it's the first thing we let go of when we get stressed out. I remember when I was in London, I was working for a multi-billion-dollar insurance company, and it's privately owned, and the CEO was there, and for whatever reason, I was trying to talk to him, and I remember stepping out of that conversation and being like, wow, I didn't take a single breath in that space. Like when certain things happen to us, we just hold on and breathe and breathe, and we get more heightened and disassociated. And so yeah, it's really don't have to complicate it. It's just a case of breathing, like ideally through the nose, just like a deep breath in, and then just allowing it to recenter us, because it's so easy to just get caught in our minds.
I know with myself and with a lot of the people I work with, and to be honest, I probably did it my whole life and didn't even really pay attention until I got into like the energy field. But we often take such shallow, fast, like rapid breaths when we're anxious and we're stressed out, and it's not helping us at all. It's making it
Absolutely
worse
not.
energetically, and just like tuning into being like, okay, let me just focus on my breath. And like you said, take that slow inhale. It kind of just like pauses the internal and external chaos that's going on and just helps you hit the reset button.
Yeah, and it brings our awareness back to our body as well, because it's so easy for us to forget that we have a physical meat suit that we're in, and that it needs love and support too.
Yeah. And in your work and experience, do you find that there's a main theme or idea that prevents people from receiving everything they want to receive or receiving that self love piece?
I'd say a very common theme is the fear of being seen. So people have these amazing ideas of what they'd like to achieve, or maybe a direction they'd like to head, but there's the fear piece there that comes in that says, oh, if I do this, I'm stepping away from societal norms, and it comes back to that age old, a few hundred years ago, when we lived in closer circles, if we did something wrong that was outside of the rest of the community, we'd be ostracized and die of starvation. And I think part of our brain still is wired that way, to perceive that if we don't act the way the rest of society does, then we're going to be shamed and kicked out. And yeah, and then I guess like you say, the other most common is self-love. It's people's inability to see the beauty within themselves. Yeah, whether that be through maybe the belief systems that were created as a child, or the the way they perceived what they were being told, or was shown in those circumstances. For the first 7 years is when we do create most of our subconscious beliefs. So, and we interpret those because we only have the skills to perceive them as we are. We can interpret certain things in very detrimental ways. What could be a passing comment from a caregiver could resound within our body. Yeah, the beauty of practices like breathwork is we can come back to those old programs and erase them, and well, not erase them, just integrate them and shift the way we perceive it, and perceive it as what it actually was, which may have just been a passing comment, as opposed to building our belief systems around it.
Yeah. And I think too, I like how you mentioned that fear of being seen and also the self love piece, because I do feel like they're so closely connected. And I feel like for me, it was when I started building the self love piece that fear of being seen kind of went down. So as the self love went up, the fear of being seen went down, because it's kind of like, well, I love myself. I should be able to show myself off a little bit. And so you're more able to be seen in that way because you feel more of that self value.
Absolutely. That's a great way of a great reflection. Yeah. Yeah, so true.
Yeah. And what is one tip you might have for someone who's trying to shift that perspective of either the fear of being seen or expanding their self love?
I think it comes down to the reticular activating system, right? Which is So I guess it comes down to, if we buy a red car, then all of a sudden we start seeing lots of red cars around. And so if we can become aware of examples of times that we have stepped out of our comfort zone and it was successful, and even in the smallest ways, then we can use that as evidence to show that, show our nervous system that it's not the case, and that our fullest expressions of ourselves are so needed in this day and age. In fact, yeah, I'd say that's pretty much all we need right now is we need more people to be as authentic as possible, because that's where the magic lies.
Awesome. Now we're going to dive into the spirit segment. So, what is one
Mhm.
thing, and you probably already answered this, but what is one thing you always include in your daily routine that helps you stay spiritually grounded and balanced that might help others do the same?
Oh, yeah, absolutely a daily breathwork practice. Yeah. Because it doesn't have to be long. It can be just, a few minutes of just connecting to our breath and creating that time to reset. I guess that, and it's not kind of that spiritual, but I do also put my phone on flight mode when I go to bed, and then don't turn it back off flight mode for like, say, an hour after I wake up, because I think it's very easy to, yeah, for that to be the first thing we gravitate towards when we wake up. That and drinking a glass of water. Be surprised how few of my clients, yeah, have a glass of water when they wake up.
That's something I'm going to have to start doing. I actually never do the glass of water, but I do the airplane mode. I
Yeah,
put
amazing.
that on because like you said, that used to be like the first thing I did was I turned it on and then I got sucked into like all of the notifications and
Mm.
everything, and at some point I was like this has to stop until I'm ready energetically for it. So, yeah, those are great practices. And I want to know what your favorite story regarding your connection to spirit is.
I mean, I think probably the Camino is probably my favorite, but in a more recently, I would say there's a Nordic goddess called Freya, and I'd never heard of her until very recently, when she has become super apparent, and to the point where I see her on like number plates of cars. Um, People I know have got children by that name. Clients are always pulling her card and oracle decks when I do a card reading for them. Yes, I guess developing these connections with the higher realms I find super interesting and enjoy playing with and seeing, yeah, how they can manifest.
Now I'm curious. What do you
Mm.
think Freya's message is for you?
She's just like the coolest goddess ever. She's the warrior, she's the mother, and is it the mistress, the mother, and the crone. She's like the triple goddess. I feel like it's about really coming back to I guess our previous conversation, which was about really expressing myself fully and completely and getting myself out there, and knowing that I'm protected when I do so. If I do so for, yeah, the highest good of all involved, which is always the intention.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. And what is one final piece of advice that you have for listeners who are trying to improve their spiritual well being?
Be gentle with yourself. There's a very common theme that I see of people wanting to have it all worked out right away. And this journey is that of a lifetime. So no matter how much and how fast you push it, there's always going to be more to work on. So don't forget the joy, because, yeah, we can go really deep, and it can be, oh, it is beautiful and amazing, but it's important to remember that life is supposed to be, we're here for the love and joy of it as well. We're here for the experience of being human. So yeah, just give yourself some kindness and grace, and know that you're doing the best you can, and that's all that matters.
It's like a never ending story. Our life, no matter how much you heal, there's always like the next lesson that you have to then overcome and heal, and it just continues. And I think in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go in and heal this. And when I heal that, I'm done. I'm golden. I'm good. And then it's like, no, you're not done yet. Things keep coming. But then I think once you get to the point where you're like, this is life, it's all about the continuous growth journey and that it's always going to keep coming. It's like at least you can throw yourself in there and give yourself that grace because you know there's nothing wrong with you as to not being fully healed. There's always going to be that healing
Absolutely.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about being on the journey is that you have the tools to support you through it. There's so many people out there who there's so much within them that just are unable to process. And, sure, you may have things to work on, but you also have the tools to deal with them. And there becomes a time, through the healing process where we do start to work through a lot of the stuff that's troubling us in daily life. And then we get to the really juicy bits. But yeah, it's just about trusting. I think that's all I want to say about that.
Beautiful. And where can our listeners go to learn more about you?
So my Instagram is John van Huenen, or if you can't spell or pronounce that, I've got another. My business is called Navigating Breath, and so I have a Instagram, a Facebook, and a YouTube channel. Yeah, I also do like a bi-weekly email, just about what's going on with life and what I'm navigating, and yeah, what's present for me as well, because I am still on this journey myself. I would like to make that abundantly clear to people whoever's listening to this. Yeah, that we all have our stuff, and yeah, which I guess that comes back to that message you asked me to speak to before. It's a message to myself as well, right? Like to trust the process and to allow for joy and spaciousness.
I'm so grateful and honored that you were able to come on. I am pulling a card for every single guest who comes on this podcast to represent the guest, as well as for a general message for all of the listeners. So I just pulled your card, and I'm going to show you what it is.
What do you got for me?
The star.
All right. Yeah, I was just about finding my way, is it? Or
Yeah. The thing that stuck out to me right away was you are like a guiding light for people on their journey. There's always that light at the end of the tunnel. And can I just share that this is my personal card as well? So we all have a card that represents us, and this is mine. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness.
How cool. I love that.
It's beautiful. So as you were going on your hikes, there's this divine energy that's always with you, that's always guiding you and protecting you. So when I saw it, I was like, this is absolutely beautiful. And I loved it.
Thank you so much. I really love and appreciate that. Beautiful card.
You're welcome. And same message for everyone else. It's all about being your authentic self, tuning into what you want to show the world, and just taking all of the external out and just shining that beautiful inner beauty, because the world needs to see it. So, John, thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm so happy that we got to chat. I loved talking with you. So thank you again.
Likewise, my absolute pleasure. It's been, a really beautiful conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, subscribe, follow, and leave a review. You can connect with me on Instagram at live.and.breathe.reiki or on my website at liveandbreathereiki.com. Until next time, don't forget, when spirit talks, it's time to listen.